Monetary Policy Committee retains monetary policy rate at 14%.
We are very conscious of the fact that there's a need to bring interest rate down, but we think that we are not there yet.
Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council to launch new action plan.
War against crimes. Police parade 34 kidnapped and armed robbery suspects.
On Good Morning Nigeria this Wednesday, we focus on recurring arms seizure in Nigeria. The seizure of another cache of arms last week by the Nigerian Customs Service has again raised concerns over proliferation of illicit arms imported into Nigeria.
Now, the latest of such seizure of about 470 pump-action rifles in Lagos Seaport is a fourth by the customs operatives within a period of 8 months, and all of them from Turkey.
Yes, I'm blessing. We've just, the seizure is made possible because of it's coming from the port, from legitimate importation source. But there could be other sources that are not checked, where these things can be coming in, from different borders. All right. According to Nigerian Customs Service investigations, the weapons were said to be imported by Great James and Oil Gas Limited.
Now, this year alone, that is, between January and September the 2nd, about 2,671 pump-action rifles imported into Nigeria were seized by customs operatives.
And this development is not only becoming worrisome, but also frightening to many Nigerians, especially now that the nation is passing through so many security challenges, considering again the fact that Nigeria is home to about 70% of the small arms and light weapons in West Africa.
Now, it is reported that more than half of the illegal arms, ammunition, as well as light weapons are now in the hands of non-state actors, such as armed robbers, kidnappers, insurgents, and other criminal elements within the society.
And the only good thing about the latest seizure is the fact that the culprits have been apprehended to be brought to justice, which may serve as deterrent to other criminally minded elements in the society. Well,
question again to ask Kieran will be, how come, like this particular sets that have been taken through this regular seaport, like you indicated, if not through the other means, is there any kind of collaboration with some other security agents?
Exactly. That's a big question.
Well, why is it so difficult to control influx of illegal arms into Nigeria? And what are the motives of the importers of such illegal arms? What should governments at all levels do to stem the tide of proliferation of arms? This is Good Morning Nigeria, this Wednesday edition, and welcome. My name is Blessing Abu. Thank you for joining us.
And I am Kieran Umai, also thanking you for making time to be part of this morning's show. And we are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. And of course, in the course of this package, we shall take complementary segments, which will include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, entertainment news, and the weather outlook for the rest of the day. For now, we join our colleague Joseph Johnson, who just back from holiday. I just newly married.
No, he's been here. He's been on the program.
Yeah,
so
okay, you were. I'm meeting you for the first time. All right, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Kieran, and Blessing, and thanks for joining us on the news. The Monetary Policy Committee has retained the monetary policy rate, MPR, at 14 and all other monetary parameters at the current rate. Briefing the media at the end of the committee meeting in Abuja, the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele said it is most imperative to retain the rates at current levels to sustain the gains recorded so far in economic stability.
We are very conscious of the fact that there's a need to bring interest rate down, but we think that we are not there yet. Because if we reverse the trend, or if we do what most people expect, The truth is that it may, I don't want to say would, it may reverse the gains that we have so far achieved in exchange rate stability and even in the moderation of inflation.
Now, as Nigeria hosts tax authorities for the first time in history, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has called on African tax administrators and policymakers to perfect solutions to the myriad of constraints on tax matters towards generating resources for development. The Vice President made the call while declaring open a conference on tax administration in Africa.
The issues of collection, of tax, and the appropriate technologies that could bring down these costs, developing relevant skills and management needed to effectively create and run efficient and transparent tax administrations, issues around institutional structure, the wisdom of ensuring autonomy of institutions of tax administration have stretched the creativity and resourcefulness of tax administrators across the continent.
The Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council is set to launch a new 60-day action plan starting from 2nd October to the 30th of November this year. The Council, in its interim report on the first plan, gave a thumb up to the National Assembly for its contributions.
The idea being that we want to have a second round of the National Action Plan, which is even more ambitious than the first round. We really want to make it easy for people to do business in Nigeria.
This meeting was very, very productive. A lot of work has been done and it's beginning to show. And there is no doubt that there has a lot of commitment on the side of the government.
Now turning to the legislature, where stabilizing and sustaining post-recession growth of the economy featured prominently during yesterday's Senate plenary. Also expediting releases in the 2017 budget for stimulation of the economy was debated.
Anything for granted and should do everything possible to avoid relapsing into another recession.
The important thing to do, of course, is to make sure that the economy is active. I support this motion because it has taken a great look at what it will be if the managers of our economy fail to look at this year's budget and fund it appropriately.
Similarly, the House of Representatives says it remains committed to ensuring that Nigeria remains united. It was on this reaffirmation of the legislators' unflinching resolve towards ensuring indivisibility of Nigeria as a corporate entity that the House reconvened after reading Mr. President's resumption later.
Or noise leads to debate, it is called free speech. But when speech or noise incites to violence, then it is called hate speech. Hate speech has no place in a democracy and must never be tolerated or allowed.
In the meantime, in its quest to boost in maritime activities for economic purposes, the Nigerian Navy is championing a framework for information sharing and mutual assistance with its South African counterpart. To this end, the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Ibogate Ibas, is hosting the Chief of South African Navy, Vice Admiral Mosiwa Longwane, who is on a working visit to Nigeria.
Are known to be transnational in nature. We are going to further explore areas that our two navies will develop capacities to be able to confront the myriads of challenges that face our navies.
And turning to security, 34 kidnap and armed robbery suspects alleged to be responsible for the wave of crimes along the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, Lokoja, Niger State and environs have been paraded by the Nigeria police. The suspects were paraded in Diko, near Suleja in Niger State.
This operation that's still ongoing, 7 different armed robbery kidnappers and notorious kidnap for ransom gang, including those dealing in legal possession of firearms, were dislodged and busted in their hideout and camps between Diko Mina and Diko Abuja axis. A total number of 34 suspects were arrested.
And finally, President Muhammadu Buhari felicitates with former lawmaker, politician and pharmacist Pa Ayorinde Fashomi as he turns 92 years on 27th September 2017. In a statement signed by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, the President commends Pa Fashomi's patriotism and loyalty to the country, especially his advocacy for peace, unity and progress of the country. President Buhari also hails Pa Fashomi for regularly advising leaders on making right choices for the sake of prosperity. Joining Pa Fashomi's family and friends to celebrating the milestones and achievements of the nonagenarian, the President praised God to continually strengthen and grant him continuous good health. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria returns shortly with Blessing and Kirian. Stay with us.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem promptly through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
London, New York or Lagos, business or holiday, home or office, you can now carry out your tax transactions from anywhere in the world. You can now file all your tax returns, pay online, get a receipt and even process your tax clearance certificate from anywhere in the world online and in real time. All you need to do is log on to www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-services and be introduced to the world of innovation, convenience and transparency from the FIRS. You can also pay stamp duty as you register a new company with the CAC or for other transactions that require stamp duty payment online. You can also file your withholding tax returns and determine the withholding tax deducted from you is in government covers so that you can get your receipt within 45 days as long as the deduction has been remitted. Yes, all of this and more online at www.firs.gov.ng/e-services. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC. Please note that all FIRS services are free of charge. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It pays to pay your tax.
Dettol team is visiting schools to teach children how to protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold? No! They are spread through germs on your hands. Your hands collect germs that causes diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands regularly with Dettol soap to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Wash, wash, wash your hands. What you have to do is wash, wash, wash your hands. Use Dettol soap every day. Wash, wash, wash your hands.
Hey, great news! Oral-B has just been voted Kudos #1 quality toothpaste of 2017 by you. So even though times are hard, as a mother, you know that Oral-B is good for your family's oral health because they deserve the best. It's great value because it protects you against tooth holes and gum problems that can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier and stronger teeth in 1 week.
It is only in uniformed circles that traveling abroad is an aim.
All you have to do is just look for a way to smuggle me to America.
Wow, for real? What will you be engaged in there?
Hit the streets of Massachusetts in high spirit, pop champagne.
And most importantly, how will you travel?
Call Samson. Call Samson.
How genuine will your documentation be?
Samson will not cause visa.
By what means are you going?
Not by road now. Countless African immigrants perished while trying to cross over from Libya to Italy just a few days ago.
I Must Travel is the title of this week's very funny and educating episode of your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Bull. Keep a date with us and see how far Flash and Samson get in the quest to travel at all costs.
Over and
Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network, Glow Unlimited.
And if you just joined us, this is Good Morning Nigeria. Now to business. The Nigerian Stock Exchange declares total assets of 22.79 billion naira. Plus, oil prices jump on the back of OPEC efforts. Details with Amina Nujem on Business News.
Good morning and welcome to Business News. The federal government diversification policy has attracted 66.63 billion naira investment to the agricultural sector of the economy in less than 3 years. This covers direct investment, disbursement of loan facility to farmers, as well as processors.
And we've been able to pay up to 940 million naira directly at interest drawback. And that interest drawback is a key support component. If you borrow money and you behave yourself very well and you pay back as and when due, in the national model, you can come back every 3 months and we give you up to 40% rebate.
Still on agriculture, the International Coffee Organization has raised concern over the continuous fall in the price of coffee, which makes farmers earn so little. They said many farmers are likely to abandon their trees, endangering future supplies at a time surging demands of the commodity. The intergovernment body said farmers' low earnings in many countries were reducing supply even as demand grows around 2% annually in the instance of rising consumption in emerging markets. The Nigerian Stock Exchange posts total assets of 22.79 billion naira with 9.73 billion naira held in liquidity with accumulated funds of 19.31 billion naira. The exchange closed the year 2016 on a sound liquidity position. We now take a look at Tuesday's closing numbers from the Nigerian Stock Exchange. U.S. oil prices returned to the bull market territory within the global benchmark, hit a 2-year high as investors gained faith that OPEC will successfully shrink a global supply glut. A drumbeat of bullish data in September, including the International Energy Agency's upward revision to its demand outlook, has lifted prices. Investors have become more confident that the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries will continue cutting production and that its effects are helping bring oil supply and demand into balance. And that's it on Business News for now on Good Morning Nigeria. The program continues shortly.
Thank you very much, Amina Najim. Up next is a newspaper review.
Bayo Atoyebi just joined us, newspaper reviewer. You are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Kerry. Good morning.
All right. And,
good morning,
Bayo. Nigeria.
And we kickstart with the New Telegraph.
Okay.
Yeah, above the nameplate on the New Telegraph, where why we retained 14% interest rate by CBN. The CBN governor with the rider there, MFLM, we are not overfunding federal government. And directly below the nameplate, we have some, striking headlines there. Prison service dismisses 20 officers over jail breaks. Page 2 has that story. The recall notice Melaya, that's a Dino Melaya, evades INEC officials. Page 35. And then on the issue of Biafra, Southeast governors unveil plans to rehabilitate IPOB members. That's on 33. All right, now the main headline on New Telegraph this morning, EFCC, lawyers groups file 17 suits against Magu. With two riders, AGF asked acting CJ to consolidate seats. Page 2 has that story. And again, banks shielding money launderers. That's according to Magu, the acting EFCC chairman. He said that banks shielding money launderers. And then below the photograph on the New Telegraph, Senate in stormy session over IPOB's prescription. With a rider, Parliament recognizes prescription. But Saraki says we wouldn't bow to blackmail. That's on page 4. That's where you have the details of that story. Blessing.
Okay, some of the stories you've read also on the front page of the Independent newspaper. Just above that, meanwhile, let's take off with the story above the nameplates. Federal government releases 336 billion naira in Q1 capital funds to MDAs. With the rider, Senate warns against return of recession over poor execution of budgets. Now, moving further down, reps raise committee on restructuring and agitations. That's the lead story for the Independent this morning. With 3 riders, Senate says Nigeria's unity non-negotiable, asks agitators to follow constitutional means, and cleric urges proscription of Christian Association of Nigeria and also the Jamaatul Islam, right? Yeah. So that's on page 5. You find more details on page 5. The photograph you have there is that of the Minister of Finance, that's Kemi Adeosun to the left, Justice Walter Onoge, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo right there in the middle, and also Tunde Fowler, the Executive Chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service Nigeria, as well as all the tax administrators at the Tax Administrators Forum that held in Abuja yesterday. Afenifere to Army, don't deploy Operation Crocodile Smile to Southwest. With the rider produced Nnamdi Kanu, parents now, family tells military. Story starts right but continues on page 4. Now, inside you'll find a story, police capture Boko Haram commander in Ondo. More details on page 7. Now to the right part of the screen, you have, beside the photograph, a story on APC may seek Sajay's removal as PAC boss. PAC, of course, is the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption. There is a rider to that story, a party after him for exposing corrupt members. This is from a civil society organization. Quickly, still with the stories on front page tag. For the leadership this morning, we have Senate backs President Muhammadu Buhari's stance on Nigerian state. Declares country's unity non-negotiable, says prescription of IPOB constitutional, and also warns against poor implementation of 2017 budget. And the story took about INEC and Senator Dino Melaye is right there on the front page as well. INEC officials storm National Assembly to serve Melaye recall notice. Story starts right there but continues on page 6.
Yes, let's start with the National Assembly that resumed yesterday after its annual vacation. The Senate went into executive session for over 2 hours, and when they came out, the Senate President reported that the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable, and we all are committed to the territorial integrity of our country. He also added, we will seek all avenues to ensure peace reign across the country. At the House of Representatives, the members resolved to take a second look and revisit the issue of devolution of powers. The Speaker was very declarative, particularly on hate speech, when he said, when speech or noise incites violence, it is called hate speech. Hate speech has no place in democracy. It must never be tolerated or allowed. However, Trust reports that senators spoke some home truth to one another. They were said that senators rebuked their competitors of the Southeast for tactically supporting IPOB. It was said that Senate caucus leader was criticized for standing bail, while the Deputy Senate President was also criticized for allegedly leading a delegation to visit Nnamdi Kanu. The senators described that act as unsenatorial. Issues were also raised on the comment by Dr. Bukara Saraki that the prescription of IPOB was unconstitutional, but he succeeded in calming all frayed nerves, and he made a declaration. It is time for us all to stand for our nation. Now, talking about the report about Produce Our Son, that is the family of Nnamdi Kanu, they are alleging that the Nigerian army, when they invaded, according to them, allegedly, the Afaraoku home of Nnamdi Kanu, they have not seen him since then. The Director of Army Public Relations, Colonel Sagir Musa, says the army does not have knowledge of his whereabouts as it did not arrest him. Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, has also said that the federal government is not holding Nnamdi Kanu. He does not know about his whereabouts. However, other social media platforms have reported a member of the proscribed group by name Fineboy, who is on record to have said that he knew where the IPOB proscribed leader is, and he will not disclose it. He will only talk about it only to the IPOB leader. Meanwhile, Central Bank has maintained all parameters relating to monetary policies, and it is also occasioning reaction. And the argument of the Central Bank is that you don't change a winning team. Since the monetary policy succeeded in pulling us out of recession, there was no need to change the parameter. However, other analysts have observed that the high cost of foodstuffs that is raving in the country is because of the exchange rate between Nigeria's naira, which is now 1 naira, to 1 sefa, which is 1.5 sefa. It has made the naira cheaper. Therefore, what is happening now is that Nigeria, surrounded by French countries, are now importing our foodstuffs out of Nigeria. And there are 14 francophone countries. All of them are using sefa. The sefa, for now, is 1.5 to naira. And out of the about 155 population on the 14 French countries, many of them depend on the foodstuff that is coming out from Nigeria. That is why, in spite of bumper harvest, foodstuffs are still expensive.
Very expensive.
And that shows clearly, you know, that if we get seriously involved in agricultural produce, we have a ready-made market, you know, for it on the African continent. Now, we have 2 more papers here. Let's quickly run through them. Daily Sun now. Well, it's still on IPOB. Senate Southeast governors to meet Buhari. We've seen that in other papers. Okay, but I have the Sun newspapers here, but I'm not sure the cameras can reach it. Okay.
I mean, look at here this day.
Well, what is important on this Sun newspaper, I must tell you, is the arrest of kidnapped suspects who specialize in abducting and killing civilians along Abuja Mina Road. You can see the CSP Jimo Mushu, they're showing them there. Some of them are also on
in the news.
On military uniform. All right, let's move straight to this day newspaper. That's the last one that I have here this morning. Above the nameplate, we have the federal government's 100 billion naira debut Sukuk offer oversubscribed by 6%. The full story is on page 12. And I'm moving down. The main headline was still on CBN governors, the defense of quantitative easing. He says CBN is not overfunding government. And one last striking story here, towards the left side of the photograph there, National Assembly, okay, Nigeria's unity, not negotiable, as we read in other papers. And then there's one here I'd like Bayo to briefly talk about. You're a come and chop politician. Sage tells Oyego. What is really happening between Sage and APC members?
This is a controversy between the presidential advisor and the APC political party. And since we have never mentioned the statement which he categorically declared at the instance, we don't owe it a duty to also relate to the rebuttal. But meanwhile, one of the critical issues that has become of concern is the recall process of Senator Dino Melaye. Yesterday, there were initiatives to serve him papers as directed by the court. They didn't succeed in getting him at the chambers at the plenary. They went to his office, he was not there. One report said that they dumped all the petitions, a copy to serve him at the door. However, INEC is on record that they didn't succeed in serving the senator because he evaded them. They will now go to court on Thursday and seek permission of the court, brief the court, and probably they will get an alternative direction about how to serve the senator. The senator called a press conference on Monday and said the 90 days allowed by the law has lapsed. It may be recalled that it was at his instance that the recall process at day 16 was stopped. And the court ruled that the process now, when it resumed after he has been served, requires the other 74 days for completion.
Anyway, we'll watch the events. Thank you very much, Bayo Tebi.
Thank you.
We'll see you again tomorrow on the segment. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll start off with the conversation, taking a look at the recurring arms seizure around Nigeria.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
You people sell imported materials here. As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie, buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again. That is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
Convinced. Change begins with me too. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Another edition of TV Guide magazine is out with revealing accounts of trending stories. With the dwindling oil revenue, he says there is no reason to worry.
We strongly believe that culture is Nigerians' new oil, and we're going to show that by creating wealth, our art and culture will be a statement for all of us.
Our cover story is on Otumba Olusegun Runchewe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture. For upcoming TV presenters, elegant Elizabeth Banu tells you what it takes. A peep into the activities of the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative, a mandate being fulfilled. A trip to the Yankari Games Reserve at Safari in Bauchi State brings you closer to nature. And the Oshun Osogbo Festival, our culture, our pride. Professor Adiku, the Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja, tells us what it means to manage a university, plus our regular features, star profile, media issues, relationships, young minds, entertainment, sports, and lots more. Pick your copy now at the vendors or at every NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, still your indispensable companion.
If you just joined us, the program is Good Morning Nigeria, and you're right in time as we kickstart our discussion. Now, to set the stage for this morning's topic, taking a look at recurring arms seizure, let's join Oyeyemi Ajayi as he posts us with this background report.
Just last week, the Nigerian Customs Service intercepted 470 pump-action rifles at the seaport. The seizure came about a fortnight after the customs operatives seized 1,100 pump-action guns shipped from Turkey.
It's good for Nigeria, it's good for Turkey. What is the interest of Nigeria? It's interest for Turkey. If there are some arms illegally smuggled from Turkey to Nigeria, together with the Nigerian authorities, we explore the matter and we solve the issue. But I would like to make sure the Nigerian public, esteemed Nigerian public, the fellow Nigerians, we never do deliberately anything against the interest of Nigeria.
This is the fourth time within 8 months that arms were imported illegally into Nigeria and were intercepted by the customs at the seaport. The latest seizure brings to 2,671 the number of pump-action rifles intercepted by the customs operatives at the seaport within this year. The weapons were found by customs officers while inspecting a container which brought the rifles from Turkey and were concealed in a container with a different bill of lading, thereby making false declaration. This development has become worrisome to many Nigerians in view of the quantum of arms being imported illegally into Nigeria, a situation described by the Controller General of Customs, Hamid Ali, as a threat to the nation.
So no officer or any operator that was involved in it. So we have not made arrests in respect of this. But the first one that we have, the case is in court, that have been the form for the 1,100. There are some Nigerian syndicates in Turkey that are doing this. But further investigation will now bring us to actual actors.
The United Nations has raised alarm that 70%.
All right, sorry for the abrupt end of that report. Joining us to discuss the recurring arms seizure is Haruna Mahmood, Assistant Controller General of Customs in charge of enforcement. Thank you, sir, for coming to our program.
Thank you.
We learned to be decorated this morning, but you have to come here first before that event. We're glad to have you here, sir, as the new Assistant Controller General of Customs. And again, in our Abuja studio, here is CSP Jimo Mushood, First Public Relations Officer. Good to have you again on the program. You're a regular on this show.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Nigerians.
Right, blessing.
Okay, yes, we have other guests joining us from other network centers. We would like to introduce at this point. From Maiduguri studio, we have Kabir Adamu, also a regular face on the program. He's a security risk management expert. Mr. Adamu, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Blessing. Good morning, Nigeria.
And I would like to introduce Dr. Ibrahim Abdullah. Is a lecturer with the Department of Private and Business Law, Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto. Dr. Abdullah, it's our pleasure to have you on the program this morning.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, we're also being joined from our Lagos studio. We have Sabala Hassan is a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police for Zone 2. Sabala Hassan, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Nigeria. Right, gentlemen, thank you for finding time to be part of our show this morning. And we have a very crucial matter, on our hands this morning. And let's begin by asking the Assistant Controller General of Customs to give us an overview of the arms seizure made by the Nigerian Customs, in recent times.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria. The unfortunate incidences that we have been having for the past 8 months, we have 4 different seizures of arms. The first one, we seized about 661 pump actions, declared as steel doors. The second one was 440, declared as POP. The third one, 1,100, declared as washhand basins. And the last one, which is 470, declared as plastic elbows. Now, these are all false declarations. And we found out that the importation the first one was made by an agency called Great James Oil and Gas. We were able to get the importer at that time, the agent that cleared the consignment, and the officers that were involved. Now, subsequent interceptions were all linked to the same importer. And we were able to profile and discover that all these importations were coming from Turkey. And that is why the Controller General insisted on seeing the Turkish ambassador to Nigeria, because of comments made by Nigerians as if the insinuations being made as if Turkish government is involved or is behind this kind of importation. But the Turkish ambassador came around and said they are not involved and they will never in any way cause any inconvenience to Nigerian government. So this is the current situation we are in. Investigation is still going on. The first one is already in court because the DSS have taken it up, and the officers that are involved, 5 of them are dismissed and handed over to the DSS, while the second, third, and fourth.
So there are custom officers involved in this?
Yes, there are officers that are involved, because you see, the first one that was intercepted was on information, because it intercepted at mile 2. And what happened was federal operation officers, they don't stay inside the port, but they get informants inside the port. And when a container that was not examined or haphazardly examined, or seal was just caught without examination, those containers, we get information on them, and it can be intercepted anywhere, whether on the road or in the warehouses. So that one was intercepted on the road. So when they brought it to the office, somebody was following it up, and it happened to be even a retired custom officer who happened to be the agent. And we were able to get the importer, because the importer was waiting in a hotel called Top, one hotel in
Lagos.
In Lagos.
Yeah.
So we were able to get the importer late in the night that time. And they were all brought in. So later the CG said, okay, let us now, we made an investigation, we finished investigation, found out the officers that, that were to examine that container and why they didn't examine that container. So officers were actually involved. Agents were involved. The terminals were involved. So we were able to discipline our own officers. 5 of them were dismissed because the Controller General doesn't take that kind of nonsense, and handed over to DSS. And currently they are undergoing investigation. And even the other ones, an officer is also involved on the 1001 because there was cut and seal, because they just cut it and seal it back. I mean, they just cut the seal without examination. So an officer was involved, and a terminal clerk was also involved. So the 2 of them are currently under detention.
SCG, sir. Now we've talked about this alleged connivance with your men. Now, that is not the only reason why we could have this proliferation of arms being imported into the country.
No.
What exactly do you do, or how is the means to actually checkmate what is coming in, being handled by customs themselves? If there is total check from your bill of lading to other things that you need to check, how come we have more of such in the last 2 years?
Yes, we have more of that because, you see, when things are not declared rightly, they are actually false declaration. There's no how you will know except through examination.
So what's happening to those examinations?
And this is what we do, because we're supposed to have scanners. Unfortunately, because of the service providers that left, they left us with epileptic scanners, and some of them are actually very bad.
Those are the stories in the last how many years? How long does it take to actually get scanners?
It's not something you go to the shelf and you just go and buy a scanner and just bring it up. Those service providers have their dealers. And it's like you have to come through us before you can get to them. And you know, it's not that they wanted before they left. So, but effort is being made right now. I think very soon, the scanners will be available, because the government has taken up, they have seen how we are suffering in the port to offload and load back things. So now we are on red alert, and that's why we go for 100% examination. And it is affecting trade facilitation, because definitely we cannot just say, okay, we'll just sample, open 1 or 2 containers and just say go, because of the current situation we are facing. So we have to do 100% examination.
All right, okay, so ACG.
Okay, I think
CSP Jim Moshood.
Yeah.
Now, all these rifles and some of these arms getting into the hands of non-actors should be of worrisome situation to you? Because the police, of course, is also given the opportunity to license those who hold some of these arms. But now, with such influx, how difficult is it for your job to actually do that?
Thank you so much. It's becoming a very worrisome dimension, because the fact remains that if those arms were not intercepted, it doesn't become obvious at the level of entrance. Nobody sees it. But become obvious at levels when criminals start using this arm. People say, no, police are not doing anything, things are not working. And that is why synergy between us and the customer, other relevant agency in internet security is very, very important and is crucial. And that's what we're working on. The bottom line is, when people come in with prohibited firearms, which under the law are not supposed to be in private hands, it is an illegal act, it's an offense. The Firearm Act, which is an act of National Assembly, is still enforced, which permitted the Commissioner of Police, the Inspector General of Police, or even the President to grant licenses to certain category of firearms. Like, for example, when you take the Dane gun, the pump actions, the Commissioner of Police can grant license, not this kind of pump action that were intercepted, the one that is meant for gaming, maybe for sporting and things like that. But for a long time now, the license have been stopped because of the prevailing security situation in the country, so that nobody use any guises. Far back before the advent of issue of Boko Haram insurgency, granting license have been completely stopped. The only what we do is to renew, and that renewal has equally been stopped, that everybody must come for re-examinations of those firearms. We don't really understand. So, mind you, the public armory is domiciled at the command headquarters of the police state command in every state of the federation, where unlawful firearms that were recovered or probably that were found are kept, where after examination, if like yesterday we paraded some suspects and firearms were recovered from them, this firearm after court order are destroyed. And equally of note that within a space of a month, we have recovered 75 firearms of different categories, which are prohibited, from kidnappers, from armed robbers, from people supposed not to own them. And this is the reason why people take to arms easily to commit crime. And we are fortunate, and
those ones were good.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Lagos, where retired AIG Bala Hassan is. So we are talking about pump action here, but there are other categories of arms, like AK-47, shotguns and what have you. Somebody can just put in his pocket and cross over. We have borders that are not properly manned, and it means that if we can seize all these ones through our seaports, then what is happening elsewhere? So what does all this, portend for security in Nigeria?
Well, it's a very, very worrisome development in view of the porosity of Nigerian borders. These are the ones we could see through the port. If you look at the Niger border, is more than 1,450 kilometers. Then the Cameroonian border is even longer, Nigerian-Cameroonian border by the east. Then even towards Benin Republic, we have 733 kilometers length of border. So these arms could easily come through this border, because most of the borders are badly manned. Very, very few are manned, very, very few. So the criminals could seize the opportunity and bring all sorts of arms. And most of these arms recovered by the customs and even by the police are in the class of prohibited firearms. No person has right to carry such arms except with the approval of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is a prohibited arm. The other class are non-prohibited, the ones the PRO mentioned, like Dane guns. Those things could be registered by the commissioners of police on instruction of the Inspector General of Police, delegated power. But the main prohibited firearms are those. Even pistol cannot be used by any Nigerian except with the approval of the President. But with this development, all these firearms found themselves into illegal hands. That's why the rate of kidnappings, robberies, and militancy has to increase. So the Nigerian police must collaborate with other security agencies to put a stop to this illegal movement of arms across the Federation.
All right, thank you very much. AIG Bala Hassan. Now, let's get to Maiduguri, where we have seated a security risk management expert. Now, Madam Adamu, recently there was a meeting with UN REC. UN REC, of course, is the United Nations Regional Center for Peace and Disarmament in Africa. Now, it's been said that about 70% of the 500 million illegal arms in West Africa, 70%, it's in Nigeria. Now, what does that portend for our security architecture? Knowing that sometimes you have militants being asked to return arms and ammunition in their possession, you see several sophisticated ones for those who even return.
Yes, Blessing. The UN has severally stated this fact that in the West African sub-region, Nigeria has the highest number of light and small weapons in circulation. It's a reflection of, unfortunately, the security situation within the country. Like you rightly pointed out, whenever there is an attempt by either the federal or the state government to mop up these weapons, it is very alarming when you see the type of weapons that are being returned by either the militants or, as the case may be, the police. Just yesterday displayed the weapons they retrieved from armed bandits that have been operating along the Abuja-Kaduna highway, and then, of course, around Niger State. These are very worrisome. And I think the bottom line is that there is a correlation between this high proliferation of light and small weapons and the rate of crime, as well as insecurity within the country. It's also very important to note that the federal government, previous government, starting from former President Obasanjo, Jonathan, up till the present administration, they have instituted committees to mop up these weapons. And there is a presidential committee, I think a task force, on this act. But unfortunately, we are not seeing the result of this action. What do I mean by that? In simple terms, there is a huge market for these weapons in Nigeria. Non-state actors either buy these weapons or in some cases, unfortunately, and this is where I tend to disagree a bit with the statement by the first PRO, yes, there is a pronouncement by the IG that they are no longer issuing licenses. But as it were, we know, because we operate in this industry, that people are still able to get these licenses. How they are able to get it, unfortunately, it beats my imagination. All you need to do is go out now to certain locations within this country, and you see non-state actors, sometimes in open display, holding weapons that you know are combatant weapons and that shouldn't be in their possession. And the bottom line is that there is a correlation between this proliferation and the level of insecurity within the country.
All right, thank you, Adam. We will return to you and we'll also allow Jimo Mushud to respond to what he raised just now concerning licensing of pump action and other categories of arms. And let's go to Sokoto now, where we have Dr. Ibrahim Abdullahi. He's a lecturer in the Department of Private and Business Law, Usman Danfodio University. Well, you also will be more analytical than the security arrangement. Now, what is your take in all of this? Should there be a stricter legislation or law that would perhaps checkmate the importation of these arms by way of a punishment or deterrent? Having listened to other guests on this program, what is your take? What do you think is really happening within our security architecture?
I think it's very unfortunate that Nigeria find itself in this particular position. And this is because in a similar episode, I did make a remark relating to the proliferation of small arms and light weapons that the Firearms Act of 1959 as amended has not really been put into force. And what do I mean by this? You even have punishments for unlawful possession of firearms that, upon conviction, carry a term of 10 years imprisonment. And I find this particular punishment not to have the necessary deterrent effect towards curtailing the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. Now, there are various characteristics that makes these small arms and light weapons to proliferate. For example, is the fact that they can easily be concealed. And because they can easily be concealed and their lethality in nature, people find it very easy to go for this type of weapons. Now, when you have non-state actors thinking that the law only provides for a lawful possession and the punishment is only 10 years imprisonment, without a more deterrent punishment like life imprisonment or, if possible, death sentence, that will send a negative signal to anybody who wants to engage in such proliferation to have a second thought. And in any event, I listened to Mr. Haruna Mahmoud. He was talking about the issue relating to lack of scanners. I think in this computer age, we shouldn't be thinking about lack of scanners as being one of the reasons why the Nigerian customs have not been really able to get to the root of this problem. That shouldn't be the case. What have they been doing with the budgetary allocation allocated to them? That shouldn't be a reason. But there's this problem relating to international trade, relating to end-user certificate. That is where the bottom line of the problem lies, because the end-user certificate shows where the eventual user of the said weapon lies, that is the end user. But what you find out is that end user certificates can be falsified, end user certificates can be gotten from corrupt public officials, and whatever a declaration that is made in the end user certificate is not a guarantee that the person that has that end user certificate will abide by such guarantee, in the sense that he will not eventually transfer such weapons to non-state actors. So I believe that it is high time that we have a more stiffer legislation. The legislation should be reviewed. The Firearms Special Miscellaneous Special Provisions Act is there, but it has been there. The laws are virtually obsolete. We need to review this law in order to send a warning signal to those that engage in this proliferation that indeed the law has teeth that can bite. And this brings us to the issue of enforcement. It is not a matter of reviewing the laws. When you review laws and the laws are not enforced, it continues to have this recurrent problems of proliferation taking place. So once there is review and you follow it up by effective prosecution, I think we may get to the root of this problem.
All right, Dr. Abdullah, still with you in Sokoto, now talking about laws and other areas of where we have to strengthen that which you have since 1959, as you pointed out. Now, we've seen complicity of security men or men in uniform, actually, alongside issue of arms and illicit arms and ammunition into the country. Isn't that an act of sabotage on its own instance? And what do we do to sabotage?
I think it's an act of sabotage, and the law is there to take care of this. It is a criminal offense, and once you review the law to take care of those kind of situations, it will equally take care of these saboteurs. But for now, the problem is not only trying to dismiss staff engaged in saboteur activities or reviewing the law. We should equally try to see whether we can bring such acts under the Terrorism Act. If we can bring such acts under the Terrorism Act, I think it will equally assist in trying to curtail the menace.
Right, let's remain with you because we know your time is limited there in your studio in Sokoto. Now, would you, suggest a situation where we should have a special agency that will be established, specifically designed to coordinate the issue of illegal arms importation in the country, and even to see how we can trace the end users of such arms, especially politicians who are also the people who, are in the position to actually, fund such things. Because in the past, we know that supporters of some politicians are armed. So what can be done in this regard?
No, I think under the ECOWAS moratorium, there is a provision relating to the establishment of national commissions. But unfortunately, Nigeria does not have a national commission on small arms. What we have is a presidential task force. Now, the presidential task force has not been very effective because of the fact that it does not have an independent status. It does not have a separate budgetary allocation that can effectively allow it to conduct an independent investigation, independent work as far as the issue of proliferation of small arms and light weapons are concerned. So their functions is somehow limited, is thwarted. And that is why you find out that the speaker from Borno Studio stated that they have not been very effective. So I will be calling that there should be an establishment of a national commission that constitutes of security experts that can carry out the functions of the national commissions as spelled out under the ECOWAS moratorium. And if you look at arms that are seized, you have arms that bear numbers. That is, they are marked. Through the numbers, you can eventually trace where such arms are coming from. And I beg to disagree with the ambassador of Turkey that says that Turkey does not have a special interest against the interests of Nigeria. But most of the arms, or all the arms that have been seized in recent times, came from Turkey. Now the question is, as at the time when these arms were sold out or illegally imported into Nigeria, was there any license authorizing such sale by the Nigerian government? And what are the measures put in place by the Turkish government relating to the sales or importation of weapons? Now, I do know that under the ATT 2013, you find out that there are considerations that states must take into play before the importation of arms. And one of such is the fact that the human rights records of a particular state and the issue of authorized license. So thus, James Great Oil and Gas Limited has the authorization of the Nigerian government to have imported such arms into this country. And what are those arms doing in possession of a civilian? We do know that those arms that were recovered were basically arms that are military uses and military capabilities. They are not meant to be in civilian hands. So in this respect, I do see a kind of complicity, and it is only investigations that will take care of this in the distant future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullahi. You've raised pertinent questions, and I'm sure the ACG will be able to let us into some of those areas that you have raised. ACG Mahmoud.
Yes, thank you very much. He talked about end-user certificate. End-user certificate cannot just happen when there is an illegality involved. No national security advisor will issue an end-user certificate to somebody who is not authorized to make an import. And this particular importer is not an authorized importer of arms. He went into smuggle arms. And he talked of the scanners that we said we don't have scanners on our budget. Well, we are happy that at least you mentioned this issue of budget. The Controller General has been making presentations, submissions over the issue of these scanners. We don't have the money. There must be an intervention fund for us to have this money to buy these scanners. Not when you say our budget, we get our money from what we get from our duties. So, and that one is just for few capital projects and our salaries. So we need an intervention in order to get money to buy these scanners.
Let's put it in perspective. Averagely, such a sophisticated scanner that will meet global standard to actually do your job very well, how much does, perhaps, I don't know how large, or what is the size of this particular scanner?
They are big scanners. Okay, because there are two types of scanners. There are scanners that are mobile scanners, and there are fixed scanners.
So which?
So the mobile scanners are the ones that we are having in the border stations. More especially in Seme, for example, we have a fixed scanner and we have a mobile scanner. That one is working epileptically. That's the only one that we are having that is working.
So how much will one go for?
They are very expensive. I cannot tell you here this is their cost, but they are very, very expensive. And definitely government should give us money for it. There is, and their submission has been made. And I believe that as they are listening, everybody is listening. Now at least effort will now be made to make sure that we get money to get these scanners fixed.
In this digital age, you know, the scanners wouldn't be so huge that we can't get it. That's what many Nigerians are thinking. And again, have you people tried to source any form of local technology? This is about detection. It must not be so rocket science kind of science, so to speak. But because, of course, Nigerians understandably, do not believe in our own local technology. Because if you source that, if you look inwards, there's a possibility that someone in Nigeria could make something happen, to detect something. So, sir, what I'm trying to ask you here is, what level of effort has been made in the past to secure scanners? Because scanners are number one when it comes to checking. You must have it to have a perfect checking in today's world. So what efforts have been made in the past?
That's why I told you, the Controller General for the past 2 years has been making presentations and submissions and making sure that at least we have the scanners. We are now that we could not even get it, we are trying now to even repair the one we are having. And this involves fund. It involves fund. And how do you get the fund? If you make an application or you look for this fund, you need for intervention from government and you didn't get, what do you want him to do? So, but effort is still being made.
Not requesting you to make efforts at doing your job properly. So
we are still doing that. We are not finding it easy of loading containers and doing a fiscal examination.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, Ed. And let's go to Jimo Mushu, once more. Adamu, told us a short while ago that the issue of licensing, that he faulted your submission on the issue of licensing, because he said that other people still get these licenses and he doesn't know where they're getting it from, after it has been banned or rather suspended for a while now, according to what you told us earlier.
Thank you so much. I think there's a mix-up and misunderstanding from Isosa, and I beg to say this to him, because the IG, the Commissioner of Police, even the President are the categories of people that give license. As it comes to issue of pistol, or that the President has the prerogative to issue license to an individual after recommendation from the Inspector General of Police. But licenses are not given to prohibited firearms at all. Licenses are given to all those categories of firearms I've mentioned, for hunting, for gaming, for sports, and the likes, and not for prohibited firearms, because they make explanation that those arms being found with kidnappers and armed robbers are prohibited firearms. They are not the category that the IG give license. And I want you to know that anybody found with a license must have been forged with a recent license. All the licenses have been stopped. No license for firearm is being issued as we speak in respect of the category of the firearms that's supposed to be licensed by the Inspector General of Police or the Commissioner of Police or the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria. So, having said this, on a daily basis, we recover from 2 to 3 prohibited firearms. Mind you, it's not only those that are being imported. Even within the country, there's blacksmiths that fabricated weapons that can equally fire the ammunitions of like a Beretta pistol or like even AK-47 rifle. Recently from the arms dealer, locally fabricated arms within Kaduna South, we recover more than 50 locally fabricated firearms that can fire the same caliber of ammunition that those imported firearms can fire. And that is important in mopping them up. And that is why the Inspector General of Police have directed the Commissioner of Police in charge of command and Zonal Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of zone to continue with the reading of criminal hideout, with the mopping up of these firearms and ammunition. Because you know, when you have a build-up towards the election, you have instances where politicians that doesn't have the interest of the nation at heart will start obtaining these unlawful firearms and arming their youth.
Are you seeing that in this direction? What is happening?
It's a possibility. But it's go far, far beyond that, because it actually security issues if such large catches of firearms enter into the country. It may be for diverse reasons. One cannot, before investigation, say this is the specific reason they are being imported. But those are part of the reason that we consider. And that is why once you have election coming, a year or two to the election, we drop an operation plan, which are pre-election operation plan to mop up the election proper and subsequently after the election. And if you watch the successes you are making in ensuring that the kidnappers were arrested, do you know that even the last parade we did before this last one of yesterday, we arrested the armorer of the kidnappers who dismantled an AK-47 and assembled it and proved it within 3 minutes, which most of the professionals even in the services may not be able to do. That's to let you know that we're achieving a lot in removing these unlawful and prohibited firearms from the wrong hand. But If everybody's on board, like we are working in synergy with the custom, there's no doubt about that, and other relevant security agencies, because the border is a very vast area, and they're supposed to be planning ahead of time. You know, we have a detachment of police border patrol that are working on daily basis with the custom. They are inner, while the custom is outside. We don't have any conflict. We've been doing our work properly, and we'll continue to build on this synergy to ensure that all illegal firearms are removed. If you check through Nigerian border, it's a very vast area, and planning is supposed to be ahead of now. I went on crime prevention of Korean police in 2013, and part of the experience is no firearms in the hands of criminal. So if you are going to be an armed robber, or you are going to use, either you fashion a knife, or you fashion a corrugate, or you fashion something to perpetrate, but to get firearm is very, very difficult for any criminal. And that is where we are working towards. On a daily basis, like when you take the south-south, the southeast, where we institute stop and search point, we recover this firearm. At times, even victims struggled out of the attacker, locally fabricated pistol. We have quite a number of them that goes into wrong hand that are locally manufactured. So we trace the source, and these people have been arrested. Actually, some of them are old men that must have learned this trade from probably their from generation to generation. But if it is genuinely in the production for the normal hunting gun, it would have been better. Thank you.
Okay, let's turn to Dr. Ibrahim Abdullahi, in the lecturer, the Department of Private and Business Law, Usman Dan Fodio University, Sokoto. We have a little time with you, and at this point, we'd like you to do your final thoughts in all of this. You know, make some suggestions that could be, that could be initiated, or that could be formulated and applied in the course of, stepping down the trend of cache of ammunitions that have been imported into this country.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, let me talk about the issue of the vast borders we have in the country. Well, I agree that we have vast land borders that are badly managed. But I think this is an opportunity to create job opportunities for the millions of Nigerian unemployed graduates, so that at least they can be employed into the security sector, trained, so that we can have effective management of these border areas. Because the vast borders that we have in this country, compared to the number of personnel that patrol the borders, are not commensurate. So you need more hands, you need more personnel, and I think it's an opportunity to create job opportunities for the teeming unemployed graduates we have in this country, so that they can serve as a means towards patrolling the borders effectively. And secondly, if at all the budgetary allocation of the security agencies are not sufficient enough to get the latest technology that can assist the country in trying to stem out the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, I think the federal government, through the National Assembly, should do something about this towards increasing budgetary allocation to these security agencies. And the issue of corruption. If we do not stem corruption, corruption will prevent this country from stemming the tide of proliferation of small arms and light weapons. If I may quote what Kofi Annan said in his Millennium speech in 2000, he said that the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in Africa, or in sub-Saharan Africa, is even more deadly than HIV/AIDS. But I dare say that if we allow this to continue, it is even more deadlier than cancer. Because these weapons, once they get into our country, they are not meant to be given out as a parting gift. They kill, they maim, they injure, they create health problems to the country, they prevent developmental initiatives for the country, and most importantly, they make Nigeria to be at security risk. Invariably speaking, it may be an avenue for terrorists to thrive in the country. And that is why we must do everything possible to ensure that we stem the tide of corruption in the country. I quite appreciate the moves being made by the present administration and try to deal with the issue of corruption. You can see that even the custom officers were complicit in the recent seizure. They allowed some of the containers that were seized, or some of the weapons that were seized, to be taken away on the grounds that there was negotiation going on up to 12 million naira before eventually one of the custom officers was caught and possibly arraigned before the open court. So I think corruption should be eradicated, and I think the federal government is doing that in the right direction. And then you have review of legislation. National Assembly should be very proactive. There should be legislative activism. It is not all about the issue of allowances and what have you. These are serious security threat issues that the National Assembly should take very seriously towards looking at the laws we have with a view to comparing what other countries have done in the past to ensure that they stem the tide of proliferation of small and large weapons in their country, borrow a leaf from them, look at our peculiar circumstances, and trying to review the laws we have. Police, the DSS, must equally be up and doing. And it is not only an issue of arrest. There must be effective prosecution. And effective prosecution here means that whenever these illegal arms dealers are arrested, it is not an issue of getting somebody who is not conversant with security matters to handle such issues. It should be given to a very competent person whom the relevant ministry knows that can handle the case, so that you can have effective prosecution towards ensuring that you have a deterrence. And I'm proposing that the National Assembly should impose a death sentence for whosoever illegally imports into this country prohibited arms. And of course, the root causes of the proliferation of small arms and light weapons should be addressed. Poverty is one of them. Insecurity is one of them. We have several issues of agitation, and if you take into consideration the time when these weapons were seized into Nigeria, it is the period when agitations were upcoming. That is where these weapons came in. And the international arms trade that has a law governing it, that is the Arms Trade Treaty 2013, does not have an effective enforcement mechanism to ensure that states that engage or that are complicit in this kind of trade are brought to book. So this lack of enforcement mechanism has even made the ATT 2013 to be a toothless bulldog. So we need to ensure that our national legislations are fortified. We need to ensure that effective arrests are done, and we need to ensure that prosecution is done effectively. And lastly, whenever somebody is convicted, the issue of pardon should be out of question. That will go a long way towards addressing the issue.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim Abdullahi, lecturer at the Department of Private and Business Law, Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto. We understand you have some other pressing engagements, so we'll have to let you go. Thank you very much for joining us, and you joined us from our Sokoto Network Center. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Time for a break. When we'll return, there are already reactions coming in from our viewer, and we'll like to take them after the break, and the discussion will continue also.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
It's about that time. States across the country coming together for one purpose, one goal. They are young. They are solution providers. The NTA ETV Children's Expo 2017, holding at the NTA Arena, Area 11, Garki, Abuja, with the theme Renewable Energy, Industrialization, Arts and Agriculture as tools to bring Nigeria out of economic recession, with sub-themes post-harvest processing and preservation, and using arts and crafts to promote tourism. Date 22nd to 27th October 2017. This expo is open to ages 6 to 12 years for junior category and 13 to 18 years for the senior category. It's about the Art, Science and Technology Expo. For sponsorship consideration, please call the following numbers.
Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria up to this moment, and we'd like to return to Lagos, where we have retired AIG Bala Hassan.
I think before we do that,
well, let's get. It's as if we have forgotten him, so let's get to him. Let him make the opening remarks for this second segment, so we can go to what our viewers are reacting to. And sir, Nigerian neighbors have experienced wars over the years, including Chad, Libya, Sudan, and what have you. And of course, the ripple effect of that is that there is a gun running across borders in these African nations, and that has seriously affected Nigeria. Apart from the cache of arms being seized at our ports, of course, we know that there are other means of smuggling these weapons inside the country. Now, in this connection, what would be your thoughts with respect to how to curb that situation, or even do an internal search to see whether we can, of course, mop up some of these arms circulating in the country?
Well, it's not in dispute that the fall of Gaddafi has resulted in some proliferation of arms into Nigeria, and also Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb and other wars across West Africa has resulted in movement of arms into Nigeria. However, within the Nigeria as a country, we need to devise means of ensuring that these arms do not constitute security threats as they are. I would think that apart from the efforts being made by the customs, you discover that other parts of the country are purely neglected. And of course, the arms have already entered Nigeria. What are we doing to ensure that we restrict them? I am of the view that if we return toll gates into Nigeria, because the issue of toll gate is not just about collecting money using for development. Toll gates check the movement of people and arms to the extent that all these things that are happening, arms moving all over, will reduce. And of course, the banning of roadblocks about 2-3 years ago may even increase the movement of arms. We are not saying that roadblocks should come back. Roadblocks in Nigerian police have gone for good. But nothing stops the present stop and search being witnessed across the country in form of highway patrols being equipped with some mobile equipments to be detecting crimes. And when these things are complemented with toll gates, I'm sure movement of arms and ammunition will be reduced. And also, you discover that 4 or 5 years ago, most arms belonging to Nigerian police are normally painted in police color. So that one helps in another way in detecting the source of these arms who are being used by non-state actors. So there are other measures we can put in place to ensure that even where the arms enter for reasons that we cannot explain, that are so difficult to control, they don't find themselves into the hands of non-state actors that will use them to conduct kidnapping, robbery, internecine wars, and violence within the communities.
All right, thank you very much, AIG. Bala Hassan retired. Now, let's quickly get back to Maiduguri. We still have Madam Adamu Kabir there. Now, one of the chief sources for this proliferation of illegal arms still being in circulation and all that has been put at the feet of stockpiling of or stockpiling mismanagement of by our security agencies, at least in the means whereby we have some of them actually collaborating or being complicity, or the people that is non-actors. How do we begin to tackle that particular issue from your point of view?
Thank Thank you very much for this question, Blessing. Let's ask ourselves this question. How are the security agencies, the paramilitary agencies, including the customs, dealing with the issue of insider threat? Now, according to international statistics, when they were categorizing the threat factors within government organizations and private organizations, insider threat occupied #1. And by this, I mean, how do members of a particular organization collaborate with criminals, the case may be, to thwart the objectives and the goals of that organization? That's, in simple terms, what insider threat is. Now, let's use the example of this proliferation of weapons into Nigeria. In almost all the seizures, the customs itself comes out to tell Nigerians that there have been collaboration with some members of their staff. So how are they dealing with this issue? In security terms, in practice, do they conduct vetting? That's both pre-employment vetting, and then after employment, do they do periodic vettings? Now, that is probably the best and only way to deal with insider threat. The second component of this, do they have an intelligence unit? I'll give the example of the military police, you know, in the military setup. Does the custom have an intelligence and an enforcement unit? I'm happy the representative of the custom there in the studio is from the enforcement unit. Now, how much of the work of that unit looks into this insider threat? What I am seeing, unfortunately, is more a reactive approach. I would recommend a more proactive approach where some of these things that I've mentioned, such as pre-employment vetting, such as periodic vetting, it's recommended that after every 2 years, you do a background check, you check your staff, their income, is it commensurate with what their salary is? If it's not commensurate, where did the extra money come from? Are they engaged in activities that is not in tandem with the objectives of the organization where they are working in? The second thing that we also need to expand and look closely at, modern international trade has become very complex. Now, the argument is that these weapons are coming from Turkey. But from what I know, based on my practice, there are the possibility that Turkey is just a standpoint, like a hub. The possibility is there that these weapons were probably produced in a third country and then shipped through Turkey, perhaps through a warehouse or something. So only an investigation will reveal this, and it's only through the collaboration with agencies. There are agencies whose mandate it is for international investigations, such as the National Intelligence Agency as an example. I'm happy the representative of the custom has mentioned they're in synergy with the police, they're in synergy with the DSS. Now, have they expanded to include other agencies? Yes, the meeting that was held by the CG custom with the ambassador of Turkey, what role did the National Intelligence Agency play in that meeting? What role did the Ministry of Foreign Affairs play in that agency? And more importantly, the issuing agency for the end user certificate, what role did they play in that meeting? Clearly, from the discussions we've had so far, the end user certificate is being abused, and I see a bigger role that the Office of the National Security Advisor can play in this regard. So it's a gamut of activities that I think we can introduce to be more proactive. If we leave it as it is, I think we're being more reactive to the issue. And if the UN as a body can come out to say Nigeria has 70% of the over 5 million weapons that are in circulation in West Africa, then unfortunately we're not dealing with the problem, you know, the way we should deal with it. It's a huge issue that requires a more proactive response from all of us.
All right, let's return to the studio here in Abuja for us to take Nigerians' reaction to this conversation. We have some tweets here. Mike Anyako says, this is an offense too many. What's the source and the aim of arms proliferation? These and other questions need explanations.
Delajak Solomon has the tweets that the proliferation of illegal weapons have aggravated insecurity in Nigeria to the level never experienced before. Our security operatives must nip this.
Okay. Now, from Sakiru, federal government should provide customs the latest equipment to scan any sensitive things that will divide us.
From Omogbalao, Babs, CFR. That's the menace we're faced with in Nigeria. Corruption's eaten deep into all strata of our national life. Everyone wants to live large.
Now, from Sami, what punishment did they give to those that were involved? Because if you think only of dismissing them, I so much believe that they generate a lot to survive on through such deals. That's talking about the insider officers, who are involved in this.
Ibeneme Dominic says we need to equip and strengthen all our borders with state-of-the-art machines to help customs and our security agencies to operate.
And Mike Anyako, illegal arms deals must be fished out, and a very severe punishment, which will include life imprisonment, should be meted out accordingly.
For Dikyogu Samuel, his thought is that he believes the government should adopt a whistleblowing policy as a means of curbing the proliferation of arms in the country.
Then Uche Amechi says that the Customs Service has a big role to play in curtailing the influx of these arms. Then the police to curb the circulation and usage.
Festus Akimboyewa tweets, government and all security agents must wake up to save Nigeria from the influx of illegal arms, and the custom must diligently search all containers coming into Nigeria.
Now, Sekiru again says, this shows that all customs officers in the southwest are hardworking and patriotic. Are they the same in other regions?
From Omorui Osawenge is this tweet. The issues of scanners was discussed on this program some time ago. I remember too. It is very surprising that we are still talking about it today. How long does it take to get scanners? How come custom officers on this program don't have idea of the price of a scanner?
Now, Mohammed A.T. said the scanners should not be limited to ports alone. They should be deployed to even our roads.
Jamil Sulaiman, Nigerian customs should be encouraged for the good job. Yes, we do. This discussion is taking place because these arms were intercepted.
All right, maybe you need to react to some of the comments by Adamu, who just spoke a short while ago. So, well, a lot of issues have raised. Some Nigerians are talking about scanners, how relevant it is, and in fact, the government should provide it for you because you need it. So, what's your reaction, sir?
Yes, thank you very much. Like the man from Maiduguri have said, whether we are the insider threat. Yes, the insider threat is always there. There is no organization that doesn't have bad eggs. Employment in Nigeria, we know as far back as some years ago, employment is not vetted towards somebody's background to know whether you are this, whether you are that, but you are employed based on your paper. You are a graduate, you are passed your exam, and you have been employed. But the current deployment the Nigerian Customs Service has done of recent, the Controller General has discovered that some officers have overstayed in certain places, and that is also means that some of them can be so much conversant with their area to the extent that they can be corrupt. So he now did a massive deployment, and that massive deployment has really assisted in making some of these the detentions, seizures of firearms, and not only firearms, on drugs, and other related offensive items. So the disciplinary cases we have, like those officers that are involved that are dismissed, they are not just dismissed and sent to the society and sent away to their villages. They are dismissed and handed over to DSS for prosecution. So they are now facing the other, the importer and the agents and for prosecution. Then we have a lot of disciplinary cases since the current Controller General came to power. There's so much cases of indiscipline that were dispensed of, dismissals, retirements, the rank of officers, interdictions. It is almost on daily basis, and because he's a zero tolerance, somebody more especially on corruption. So anything that has to do with corruption, he doesn't play with it. So, and the issue of what do we do now to stem the tides of this importation of firearms? That is why he went to the extent of discussing or inviting the Turkish ambassador, who now pledged and said that we are also free to take some of our security men to Turkey, because they have about 4 companies or factories that produce these firearms. To them, these firearms, they are not assault firearms, they are shotguns, And they don't see it as being a kind of prohibitions to export it to Nigeria. But now they want to get our list of prohibitions so that they will now make it a law that this kind of items should not come into Nigeria. They can do it in other countries, but definitely since Nigeria has placed a ban on importation of even the shotguns, more especially the pump action, it will not be allowed to come to Nigeria. And that is the stage we have now reached in investigation. So they are going to assist in the investigation, and we are able to establish that it's a case of smuggling because you can see that the items were falsified in their documentation, and for that reason, at least we can continue with the ambassador of Turkey to make sure that at least from now henceforth, this should not come from them again, because they have taken it at the official level and at the governmental level, and they are going to talk to the 4 companies that are involved in the production of this, and it should not come to Nigeria because Nigeria has banned the importation of shot guns, more especially pump actions.
Thank you very much, ACG. Let's return to Lagos, where we have seated, of course, CSP Jimoh is still here. We want to look at other collaboration that you'll be holding once the handover that's issues to you. But IG Bala Hassan, now, we've moved in the different direction. There have been other issues raised, talking about aspects of intelligence report. You listened to Kabiru Adamu in Maiduguri. How do we begin to piece together some of those areas I asked earlier about issue of stockpiling or mismanagement between security agencies and those non-actors that are in possession of this? Let's share your experience.
Well, in actual fact, insider dealings contributes a lot in this proliferation of firearms. Apart from those that come after the country, sometimes, as the Assistant Controller General has said, if somebody stays for a long time in the particular position, it's likely he may compromise his position and involve in illegal dealings. That's why most of the time, even in Nigerian police force, you see, if they put an armorer in charge of a particular armory in the state, after about 2 years, they get him changed so that he will not compromise, because I have cases where armorers are the same people that compromise and allow these arms into non-state actors. So persons should not stay for too long in a particular location. And of course, issue of, as our colleague from the Degree Center said, some of these arms, they still grant license to some of these prohibited firearms. Of course, there is no person who will carry a pump action and produce a license. That pump action, provided an arms is self-loading, no commissioner of police will grant you license for such arms. Only the president or the Federal Republic of Nigeria can grant license for any arm that fires itself. That's why it's called provisional, because by the time you fire one, another ammunition will enter the chamber by itself. So such things are reached. That's why there's a full control. So the police itself should continue, as it always does, to be checking who signs these documents. They shouldn't be, it's not a delegated file. Only the Commissioner of Police in its right sense will sign. And I remember as far back as 15, 16 years ago, when I was area commander in Apapa, this thing, when the OPC started in 1999 issue, there was an instruction that no arms, no new firearms license should be issued. And I'm sure up to the time I rose to Commissioner of Police till I retired as AIG, I have not signed a single firearm license. So any person who comes and say that he has a license recently, I don't believe that thing is genuine. The security officer should look twice. Members of public should look twice to see that if you are giving a new license now, probably maybe there must be a mistake, because this is the best way to control some of the proliferation of arms, to make sure that arms do not fall into the hands of non-state actors, so that they cannot be used for kidnapping, assassinations, and other heinous crime in the society. And of course, Dr. Abdullah was talking about the severity of punishment. I don't believe severity of punishment is likely to prevent people from committing crime. Why? Years back, we've been executing armed robbers by firing squad, but it has not stopped people from committing armed robbery. What we need to stop people from committing crime is certainty of arrest, certainty of prosecution, and certainty of conviction. So if somebody is sure that if he's arrested, if he commits offense, he will be arrested, and it's not to stop at arrest, he's prosecuted, and that prosecution is done diligently to the extent that the person is sent to jail, no matter the punishment. This is the thing that deters people from committing crime. But how do we do that? If customs do their homework by protecting the sea, what of the enormous border we have? Especially if you go to Northeast. Borno State is only state in Nigeria that has border with 3 countries. It borders Chad, it borders Niger, and Cameroon. And most of these borders are highly, highly unmanned. Now, if you go to a place like Adamawa, how many borders? More than 84 illegal borders. Maybe only 5 that people are recognized by immigration. It happens all over Northeast and other parts of Nigeria where you have borders with foreign countries. So the government should also look at the way, as Dr. Abdullah has said, by employing Nigerians to make sure that these borders are manned. Of course, we cannot have enough manpower. We cannot recruit enough manpower to man this very large border. But of course, we can deploy technology. What you cannot do manually, you can deploy technology. I remember when I was CP Borno, there are some equipment being put around Banki areas on borders with our Cameroonian neighbors. Unfortunately, Boko Haram went and destroyed those equipment because they know what they could do to stop them from committing those crimes. So those equipment should assist Nigeria in policing the border. We don't need large manpower. Of course, we need them, but of course, we need technology to make sure that whoever enters Nigeria through our porous borders are being monitored. And of course, as I earlier said, we need to control movement of arms even within Nigeria by providing these tracking devices within Nigeria major highways, and of course, the return of toll gates. Toll gate will assist in checking people. Apart from reducing rate of accidents, it will also reduce movement of arms across part of Nigeria for other nefarious activities.
Thank you very much, Bala Hassan. Of course, already you have started talking about what I was going to ask as the next question. Mopping up those one already in circulation, like we've heard of about the 500 million illegal arms and ammunition in circulation. 70% is in Nigeria. Now, how do we begin to mop up effectively for those that have been, at least what advice will you give your colleague security operatives this time around?
Well, I know in days gone by, you could arrange, like places like Lagos, you know, there may be many arms and wrong hands in places like Lagos or Onitsha, some areas whereby there are opportunities. You know, crime is based on opportunity to commit the crime. Lagos, there are so many criminal targets. Criminology will tell you that there will be likelihood of snatching jeeps, do particular type of robbery in Lagos than somewhere in Jigawa or Kebbi, because the opportunity for crime, that's criminal opportunity, is higher there. So we need these areas to arrange for mopping up these arms. I know human rights gurus will come up with saying that this is wrong, it's violation of right to privacy. But there is no harm. The law can provide that we go to particular area where we think after getting intelligence to go and mop up those areas, carry out raid, remove the arms from the society. That is one. 2, by making it difficult for these arms to move around in the country is another way of mopping them, because when they are not deployed for illegal purposes, and of course when you have stationary vehicles around some strategic areas in Nigeria, you will check the movement of this arm, and secondly, you make very massive recoveries as done by customs. So these are other ways we will see we can make sure that these arms are being mopped up from society. 1, by organizing deliberate raids of criminal suspected areas following genuine intelligence that arms, ammunition in those areas, and secondly, by deploying mobile detectors across strategic routes in Nigeria so that to check and mop this movement of arms.
Thank you very much once again, Bala Hassan, retired AIG Zone 2. At this point, we'd like to thank you for your insight into this conversation this morning. Thank you also for your time. We appreciate that.
Very much, Kieran.
All right, before we go to Maiduguri to get the final thoughts of our guests there, let's talk to, because we want the line of thoughts to flow, let's get to CSP Moshood here, talking about mopping up, which your blessing raised now with Bala Hassan, mopping up, because it's now part of your responsibility to do that. Now, Nigerians now are beginning to think of 2019 election, and that some people are getting prepared, and one of such preparation is to see how they can have number of arms that could be used to intimidate opponents, as the case may be. Now, you are still serving. Bala is retired. So what is on ground at the moment with respect to how you can you apply a mechanism to effectively mop up the use of those arms, which are usually in the wrong hands?
Thank you so much. You know, earlier in the discussion, I told you that on daily basis, between 2 to 3 weapons of recent have been recovered by the Nigerian police from the wrong hands. And outside this, there's crime prevention and control strategies that have been instituted, which with much respect to our retired AIG Balasan, he mentioned the raiding of criminal hideout. This raiding of criminal hideout is being sustained because that's the only solution. After you have gathered enough intelligence about the location of certain weapon, your intelligent personnel will equally be on ground when you conduct the raid so that you'll be able to get the appropriate person arrested and mop up this hand. And it's important we engage the community, which we are doing, because it is quite important. Without engaging the community, you may not have it properly done, because where you patrol with marked vehicles, then definitely people will see you around. But when you go on marked vehicle, the community, because intelligence are better gathered by the local, there's no way you can superimpose intelligence on the people. They give the intelligence. So working on this intelligence, we are sustaining the raiding of criminal hideout throughout the country is irregular thing, and it's being sustained, and because of it, we are making recovery. Then we are engaging equally the actors in political space to ensure that they prevail on their supporter and adherents, not to go to harming themselves for the purpose of politics or for other purposes. And from all we have been showing to the press, you say we are making success in this regard. Equally of note is that though the roadblock are gone for good, but there are other like you have stop and search points, you have observation posts, you have the nipping point along a major road to ensure that travelers travel safely throughout this major road. And equally from state to state, because when we commence investigation, in Lagos, for example, you might end up your investigation maybe in place like Kano or probably in place like Calabar. There are discrete investigation of every single case of firearm is important to us, because where somebody was found in possession, unlawful possession of firearms, we can back 10 years. But when you use it to commit robbery or commit other offenses, then those two cases will now come in. So discrete investigation is what we are using to equally ensure that we trace the sources of the fire, because you might recover one at the start, but by the time you go deep further, you may recover up to 10 or 20.
Several others as well. Thank you very much, CSP Jima Moshood. Okay, before we take the last word from ACG Custom, let's take the final thoughts from Kabir Adamu. This, no doubt, is a transnational business, transnational law being broken, and all that transnational insecurity. What more do we need to do?
In simple terms, we need to expand our horizon. The various security agencies, starting from the custom that is in charge of the border, needs to expand its horizon, work closely with the other paramilitary and security departments in the country. If possible, have a shared database, and I think the police needs to drive this. Keep a database of the weapons that are in circulation, keep a database of the so-called importers, keep a database of the countries that these weapons are being imported from. And then, of course, the various other organizations can key into this database with the various information they have, and that is how intelligence is developed. From that information, you can pick whatever is relevant to you, depending on the agency that you are working in, and then we have a national approach to this issue. I emphasize in the course of the discussion the need to be proactive. If we wait and we are reactive, where we wait for them to import and we arrest them, then honestly, as long as there is a market, and the truth of if there is a market in Nigeria, as 2019 gets nearer, this market will expand. Let's be proactive. Let's ensure this database is developed, and then let's make sure all the security agencies work together to stop this activity. The second point I would like to reemphasize as my closing remark is the insider threat that I mentioned. I mean, this is a public forum, so we don't need to expand it, but it's very likely that most of the security departments don't conduct pre-employment vetting, and post-employment vetting, the periodic vetting. That needs to be introduced. There are very good private organizations that are well established and that are very good at that can assist in that regard. Then finally, equipment. We cannot overemphasize this element. It's really unfortunate that in this era, in this time, we're talking of deficiency of equipment with regards to issues of national security and national interest.
Thank you very much indeed, Kabir Adamu, Security Risk Management Expert. Your contribution has been worthwhile. Thank you very much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Kieran, thank you for having me.
All right, your final thoughts, Assistant Comptroller General of Customs. You had it all, you have to be the epicenter of this conversation. Very briefly.
Thank you very much. And I would say we now appreciate and we thank members of the society for appreciating and assisting us in performing most of our responsibilities. And I would like to say that the intelligence unit of Nigerian Customs has been reinvigorated and it is now functioning, and that is why we are able to have the second and the third interceptions of these firearms. For rewards, we thank the Comptroller General, and because those officers that are diligent enough and were able to make these interceptions have been rewarded, they have been promoted. So at least that's a very good step forward. For synergy in terms of facing the border stations, we have no options now because we all realize that there's no agency that can be on its own. So we all need ourselves and we always come together as security agencies and to make sure that at least we have a common goal and we are able to execute the problem that we are actually facing. The border is not a simple place where you say you can put your hands on all over you to cover it. So the illegal routes are so many. And more especially border communities. We need to make sure that
so everyone is on the red alert, like customers
indicated.
Okay.
So we thank you very much for
all right,
that.
Assistant Comptroller General of Customs in charge of enforcement, Haruna Mahmoud. Thank you very much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Wish you all the very best, even in your work.
Thank you.
Also, would like to appreciate CSP Jimo Moshood, First Public Relations Officer.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure being there.
Okay, to our complimentary segment now. First is sports.
Is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Cristiano Ronaldo scored